Hey, everybody, welcome back to this week's episode of Build It with Tim. On this week's episode, we're talking about how do we restrict access to pages or parts of a page specifically. This week's episode is going to be a little bit smaller, shorter than usual, and we're going to be dealing primarily with fundamental features of Tadabase. And while they are fundamental, they might be frequently overlooked. Okay, so we have these functions built into our platform that will allow you to restrict access to different parts of a page based on a user role. And it can be really helpful in a lot of different use cases. So this is something that's actually come up quite frequently, at least in the past couple of weeks. So I wanted to just make a video about this for this week's episode, just so we can cover this and tell you how we can have this happen. So next week's episode, by the way, is going to be a little bit more back to normal, where we're doing some more complex stuff, a little bit larger conceptual workflow things. So anyways, without further ado, let's get into this video and I'll show you the finished application, what we're dealing with, and then show you how to set it up. All right, so here is Tadabase, our social media app that is specifically catered for dad jokes. All right, when we log in here, it's going to redirect us to our feed here. But you can see that if I were to go back to the login page at any time, that login component is now hidden, and we have a button that says Go to App. All right, so this is what we're doing with row visibility, where we're telling the system what rows to show based on different criteria. All right, so let's hop into the builder and take a look at that. So as you can see in that example of the finished application, we have this application called Tadabase, and this is meant to be like a social media platform application, something like that, right? Okay, and inside of our settings, our domain settings, we have a custom domain assigned to this application, right? So that means that somebody just has to enter database.app. It will take them directly to this application, and we have set our login page as the home page, right? Because let's say we want people to always be directed to the ability or the place where they can either log in or sign up, create an account or log in. So we've created this, or rather, we've set our login page to our home page by enabling that here in our settings. But you can see what happens now is when we actually go to this page, let's say I type in database.app, I go to my login page, and when I log in, it will redirect me back to the application, which is exactly what we want. Okay, but if let's say I close that page and I go back to it while that cache logged in user is still there, then I'm going to be met with this message. You're already logged in and now it says log out. So the question that I got frequently, or that I get frequently, is what do I do? How do I stop this message from showing? And the answer here is all about row visibility. And when I'm talking about row visibility, I'm talking about how pages are actually broken down into rows, which are here in green, columns, which are here in orange, and then our components, which are inside the columns themselves. All right, so we can, with what Tadabase allows us to do is actually modify the visibility of the row based on a number of different selections. All right, so in this case, what we'd want to do is we want to show the login component, right? This is where that message is actually coming from. Let's see, here it is. This message is actually coming from the login component itself, right? We're not going to show the login fields when somebody's already logged in, so we show this message instead. And then we have the option to show the logout button. So because this login component exists in its own row, and the visibility is currently set to public, as you can see here. So what we can actually do with this is we can only show this to non-logged in users. Okay, so since I am logged in, if I refresh this page, now that login component is completely invisible. It's completely hidden, and it's actually not the component that's hidden, but it's rather the entire row. So anything that's inside that row, whether it be multiple columns, multiple components, if it's inside that one row that has that visibility setting configured, then the entire row is going to be hidden. Okay, so now that we have this, now we have the ability to um, build something else on this page in order to guide users to the place that they need to go. So let's say I add another row. I'm going to keep this very, very simple here. The only thing I'm going to do is to keep within the theme of this application, I'm going to copy over some of these custom CSS classes that are here on this particular um, page and these rows and components and stuff. And I'm going to add, well, for now, let's just do a link button that says go to app, okay? And then we're going to take this to the My Feed page. And lastly, we will just center align everything within this particular row. And perfect. Okay, except what if we now log out and we try to go to that login page again? Okay, so if we try to go to that login page again, that go to app button is still visible, which we don't want because that person's not actually logged in, right? So to do this, we also need to change the visibility setting of this row as well. So we have two rows with differing visibility settings that balance each other out, right? The top one with the actual login component is only visible to those who are not logged in. And the bottom row that has the button to go to the app once you're logged in is only visible to any logged in user. Okay, so now if I go back to this page and refresh, you're going to see that the go to app button is no longer there. Okay, so now let's just make sure this is all working right. I log in. Now let's say I close the page and I revisit it at a later date while I'm still logged in. Now I have the button to go to the app. All right, so that's the first example on how we can restrict parts of the page and kind of control what users see and the direction that they go or navigate through your application using row visibility. All right, so the next example here actually comes from our order payments application that we used in the Stripe payments Build It with Tim episode. And here we're going to make some slight modifications to this where we are going to be selling t-shirts, okay, two colors, red and blue. And we want to show the red ones to specific user roles, and we only want to show the blue ones to other user roles. So inside the users table, I've created additional user roles, red shirt and blue shirt, and I've assigned a role to this particular user, i.e. myself. Okay, so inside the products table, we also need a way to then filter the particular records that we're looking for. So the idea here is that we're going to filter a table by red shirts and then only show that row to the users who have a particular role of red shirt, and the same is true for blue. All right, so we're going to add a new field here, and we'll just, the radio field is fine, and we'll call this role filter, and we'll say red and blue. Okay, so the red or blue one is obviously going to be filtered by blue, and red is going to be filtered by red. All right, now that's all we have to do for the data, right? We already have our user roles, we have our products or records. It doesn't matter what the records are, but we need a way to filter them in the page builder when we're setting up tables. So if we were looking at a list of products, right, we can filter this table where product filter or role filter is red. And then let's say we had the same table on this page, but this one is filtered as the role filter is for blue. Then we can change the row visibility of the red table to specific logged in user roles of red. And then the bottom one is only going to be visible to those who have the role of blue. Okay, so obviously just from this information, I'm sure you can start to make all sorts of connections and how this could be useful when it comes to different user roles like administrators, managers, staff, drivers, like it doesn't matter, doctors, it doesn't matter what the user role is. If you have information on a page that you only want to display to specific users, you can do that by having multiple components showing the same data, but then restricting the row with different visibility so that this component is only visible to this person or this role, and this component is only visible to a different role. Okay, so if I were to, let's actually go here, let's log in now. All right, no idea what my password is for this. Let's see. Great. Yep. Okay. Right. And then we have our products. Now, because I am a red shirt role, user role, then I only have red shirts available to me. If I were to go back to my user record and change my role to blue shirt instead, right, this is going to define my user role and what, in this case, or this very specific example, what products I should see. If I refresh this page, it's going to hide the row that contains the table of the red shirts, and it's only going to show me the row that contains the table filtered by blue shirts. Okay, and we can really keep going with this where, let's say we wanted to actually build this into our orders table. We can, we actually don't need to use it with a component that's displaying data. We could also do it with forms. So let's say when we want to filter this particular dropdown, right, where we have all users are coming to an orders page, then all users are coming to this order details page where they can add products. We can't really filter this based on the logged in user's role, right? Where role filter is, we don't really have an option to compare it to the logged in user's role. So what we can do there instead is if we added a new form, a second form, and have this be, this is add a new order line item, and this is going to be the product and the quantity, then we're not actually filtering anything on the form itself. Okay, what we're actually doing is we're just filtering the entire row. So this one is only going to be for red. And then, I'm sorry, I take that back. We will filter this, but now we can say this can be filtered where only show products where the filter is red. And then if we continue building this out here, where we'll just make this the same, where we can do the table of line items right next to it. And this one will only show products where the filter we've defined is blue. And then we're only going to show the entire row to users with that particular role. Okay, so now if we go back to, let's see, here we have orders. Let's say I start a new order. Okay, because my role is right now blue, I'm only seeing this row. Okay, I'm only seeing this one because this one is only visible to those with that particular role. And then, of course, this form, the product selection dropdown, is filtered to only show where products are for blue. Okay. Probably help if I put a quantity in there. Let's get one shirt. And that's how we can do that for that particular example. Okay, so I hope you found this useful on how to use row visibility. Again, it's a very fundamental feature in controlling how users interact with your page and how you choose to display your data. But I found that it was often overlooked, or people didn't even realize that that feature was there. So I wanted to bring it to your attention this week, show you how to use it in a couple different examples, and hopefully you'll take it from there and start using it in some really creative ways. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Take care.